Hey guys, it's Matt, aka Joke2 Driver, scale 4x4rc.us. What you're seeing here is the first of a build of the Axial Wraith rock racer. So I'm going to take you through kind of the build a little bit here and there. As you can see, it started here. This first one is basically going to be the Axle build. So you're seeing right now I'm building the Diff. I've sped everything up a little bit just to make it a little less boring, a little more quick, but all pretty straightforward. It's nothing special. Handful of screws, handful of parts. You know, it's a standard differential. So yeah, obviously you've got the tool that I'm using here, which is a ratcheting Allen driver. I use it pretty much on all my builds, so it's a tool that comes in handy. Now, obviously the diff is done, so now I'm putting the gear pieces and drive shaft into, or the input shaft I should say, into the axle housing. Now I'm obviously putting in the diff. On this, you want to make sure you pay attention to which direction the differential goes, because it will be different from front axle to rear axle. So you want to make sure to pay close attention to that, because I learned my lesson on that as well. And had to switch it out after I built it because I had both axles going opposite directions, which doesn't make for a good vehicle to drive. So yeah, just putting it together, screwing some screws in, lots of screws. One thing you'll find too is that the head sizes of each screw changes quite often, so you may see me changing out an Allen driver here and there, but like just now I just changed it out, and you're going to see one of my secrets, although I'm sure nobody else has ever thought of this, but you'll see. Aha, my drill driver set on the lowest torque housing, going fairly slow just to make sure I don't over torque it, but you'd be surprised how tired your hand gets from screwing in these long screws as you're trying to start them in there. So a little drill driver helps every once in a while for the lazy man. So yeah, here's the axle build. You're watching it being done. Alright, so what you're seeing here now is the installation of the actual drive shafts into each axle. A little bit of blue thread lock on the ends. Placing the bearings obviously on there. Sliding them in, working them into the differential. And then you've got the straight axle couplings or housings, whatever you want to call them, for the rear axle. This is not particularly sensitive to size and angle, but it will be different on the front axles because they'll carry the steering knuckles, and they do have a particular direction that they'll have to go, which you'll see upcoming here shortly. Okay, so obviously moved on to the front axle. You see me put on the I don't know the technical name. I'm just going to call them the Knuckle Couplers. It's what the steering knuckles are going to attach to. However, do pay close attention to the direction these go. It's not a matter of left or right as much as it is top and bottom, and then a degree of rotation, forward or backward, essentially. You'll see that I'm trying to figure that out as I'm going through it, because ultimately I ended up having this backwards or wrong in any matter. When I had the truck built, the steering was, for lack of a better term, screwed up. I had it where the knuckles were actually tilted forward, which had the steering angle sort of down toward the ground rather than perfectly straight. So you want to make sure that you pay close attention to how this goes on. Otherwise, you'll be doing like I did and repairing it after you've fully assembled the truck and have given it its first test run. Which, I mean, it's one way of getting the job done, just not the most efficient way of getting the job done. So, like I said, just pay close attention to that process. The instructions are good. They're not perfect, so it's a little hard to tell in the picture. It's not always exactly clear. The irony is I ended up having it correct the first go around. Thought I had it wrong. See, you can see I think I've got it right, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah. Check, recheck, just make sure. Obviously this time I had it wrong, but you just want to make sure that you check that. So now obviously the axle shafts are going in, a little bit of thread lock on the end that goes into the differential. Same go around as on the front. Sorry, the rear axle. Making sure the bearings go in place, sliding everything in. More blue thread lock. Don't know how effective it is, but hey, the instructions call for it, and I got plenty of it, so yeah, we'll do what it says. Alright, making sure everything's in place, got enough rotation. Alright, should be good. Now, obviously, steering knuckles, bearings, marriage of two parts. And now here you can see I'm sort of double checking the axle, making sure the direction of the knuckle, because as I said on the other, the couplers they do have a top and bottom, so you want to make sure that you get that right to keep the camber of the wheel in such a way. So just double check that. As always, best rule of advice is to try not to rush through anything. So maybe you're a little better patient person than I am. I tend to rush through things, but my mistakes can help you hopefully can help you not make them. So yeah, just screwing screws, doing what you do when it comes to building. Kind of boring, but hey, it's my job. It's what I don't get paid to do. So yeah, just showing you the little spacers that go in the knuckle so that you don't clamp it down too hard, so you can't, when you're screwing it in, you don't pinch the knuckle and prevent the steering from being smooth. You can sort of see there the angle at which the couplers have. There is an angle to it. If you build it, you'll see what I'm talking about. More tightening of screws, lots of screws, lots of different hex heads, lots of changing out hex driver. But hey, that's part of it. It's part of the fun. So yeah, there you go. Last screw on a, oh, not quite. Well, last screw, another bearing. There you go. Pretty much that is the front axle build. So you at this point have got two fully built Axial Wraith axles. So now what you're seeing is the installation of the upper link mounts on the axle. This truss mounts not only the top links, but on the front axle it also holds the servo in place. So this routine is same for both front and rear axle, so you're just seeing one axle being done. But it's actually pretty simple, just a couple of screws, fits right in place. Right now you're kind of seeing the what is the lower link mounts on the axle, and these are a little fidgety. They're kind of tough to get the nut into the plastic piece. Which you see here, I figured out the best method for me to do this was to insert it onto the shaft of a hex drive and then press it into the plastic. That was what I found to be the easiest way to get them in there. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. Just pop it in and it holds them in place. There you go. And then simple as that. It fits in. It's got it. It's grooved, so it'll fit nicely, and then you just screw in the screws, tighten the bolts down, and you're good to go. Obviously, make sure you got the which part's up, which part's down, because it will matter on this build. So yeah, just screw in more screws. Do a lot of that in this. But yeah, there you go. Top links. Now these are some grub screws. What you've got is these axles are made to be flipped left, right, so you can have a top and bottom So what these scrub screws do is basically fill in the holes that would be used if you were mounting, for instance, the toppling mount. If you're doing the other side, it would use that screw hole right there. So that's just to keep moisture out and keep mud and gunk and other stuff out of those holes. So basically, grub screws become plug screws in this case. But that's pretty much it on the axle builds. There's nothing left to do at this point other than continue on with the rest of the build. Stay tuned.